Thank you all very much for staying back and for coming in to join this fireside chat. Our speaker is here and our moderator is here as well. So I'm going to bring them up very quickly so we can commence this last conversation at LLF. So thank you all so much for being here. Let me invite our moderator first, actually. Our moderator for this fireside chat, which is titled Navigating Identity, Integrity and Global Dreams. This conversation will focus on raw, authentic reflections on staying true to one's voice in a noisy marketplace. And our moderator today is a culture curator. She's a fashion consultant and project manager. She founded Lhaude Africa, a Pan-African institution that creates opportunities for emerging creative entrepreneurs and startups across the continent. At the heart of Lhaude's work is a strong focus on fashion education, community building, business development, digital innovation, and global trade. With a growing reach across Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Africa, Lhaude has become Africa's foremost leading platforms, supporting a thriving community of over 5,000 creatives and fashion entrepreneurs. As a consultant, she works closely with fashion founders, helping them launch their brands, refine their business models, and thrive in the industry. She also partners with organizations and businesses looking to grow roots and engage meaningfully with the creative sector in Africa. As an educator, she has taught and mentored over 2,500 students on fashion business, sustainable fashion, and community building, all within the African context. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on and on because her profile is phenomenal. Please welcome our moderator for this fireside chat, Rhoda, to the podium. Please, a round of applause for her. She was here last year as well. Totally enjoyed having Rhoda here. And she's having this conversation with none other than Mark Odiete. Please put your hands together for Mark Odiete as he comes forward to join Rhoda for this wonderful fireside chat. Thank you very much. Okay, I think you have an hour with Q&A. Please, a round of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Amazing, thank you. Welcome to this fireside chat. My name is Rhoda, and I'm super excited to be doing this today. I am doing this with Mark, who is the creative director and founder of Tracks Apparel, and we're going to be talking about making it on my own terms and navigating identity and global dreams. I mean, if you've been following a lot of the conversations we've been having, there's been quite a number of conversations about Made in Africa. You know, is it a mirage? I mean, is now our time? So we're going to be having a bit of that conversation, but from a creative designer, from a designer's perspective. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Rhoda. How are you?
I'm great. How are you
doing?
Good
afternoon, everyone. I can hear you.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Okay, I'm great. Thank you for joining us. And I think I want us to start the conversation on a very light note with just a bit of an introduction, maybe sharing a bit of your background and your transition into like fashion. I mean, you're leading one of the finest, luxury brands coming out of Lagos right now. What has that journey been like for you? And I mean, how did you even create Tracks Apparel?
Okay, thank you very much. So my background basically was in banking. Yeah, I worked for about 6 years at Access Bank. After having my professional career for a bit, I sort of thought to myself that it wasn't what I wanted to do long term. I wanted something that I could control. So I keep telling people I stumbled into fashion because when I started my brand, I just wanted to do a business. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to have a business. So I thought, what's one thing that I like? Because I had heard over time that if you're going to start a business because it's difficult, you should do something that you love. So I'm like, what's one thing that I like? I'm like, okay, one thing I like is clothes. I should be able to manage this one. I had a partner at the time, Shegun. So we just thought, what can we make? Like, what can we do in this industry that's so saturated? But we're like, let's just start out making kaftans. So we started out making kaftans like everybody else. We would make the regular two-piece kaftans, style our friends and a number of people. And then shortly into the journey, I was just like, everybody else is making this. I sort of like or have to have a niche because I don't really want to oversell. I don't like to have to convince you to buy what I have. So I'm like, what can I do differently that people would want on their own? So I started out making hand paintings. So I made a danshiki. At the time, I was like 10 kg bigger, so I needed something that was comfortable. So I made a danshiki, and then we painted it. And then I realized, okay, this thing, people sort of like it because it's different. And then I made a pair of Ashoke pants. I think that was in 2019. So I realized that the more we made stuff that was slightly different from what people had, the more people would gravitate towards us. So for instance, now when we're making kaftans, you have too many options. But when we started making stuff that was niche, we found that, okay, even the people that buy kaftans from everywhere else would come to us to get the stuff that we had that was different. So that sort of just created the brand for us. So everything that we make now has to have a sense of difference. Also, because personally, I'm a big fan of Africa as a whole. I'm very pro-African in my demeanor. So I'm like, okay, so for everything that we would paint, we want it to be African. So I wanted people to sort of see, we're just visually creating what we wanted people to see and understand. So we'll tell stories of the Festac head, the Benin head, we'll have the African maps, we'll have the broken chains for freedom. And we realized that we're also now starting to get a bit of an international audience because what we were saying was very pro-African. And then so we just continued in that trajectory of making sure that everything we made had the DNA of African in it. And then it just started to get really popular. I started to find that people wanted to connect back home, and then they would want to wear these pieces. And then when they wear the pieces, usually abroad, you would find that they were getting a lot of comments and a lot of reactions, so then they just continued like that. So that's sort of how we just stumbled into making African stuff.
Amazing. I feel like you answered like my next 3 questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
From that one conversation, which is good because I was going to then ask about, I mean, the fashion industry is lovely, but it's quite saturated, like you said. And I think that one thing that we're still figuring out in the creative industry here is that difference between creativity and, a business. But one thing that I've seen with Tracks is somehow you've been able to build a unique identity around your brand, around your products. You can almost, when you see somebody wearing Tracks, I don't know if there's anybody here who's familiar with Tracks, but like every time I see a Tracks outfit, I know that it's a Tracks outfit. And, I was going to ask like how you've been able to create and just cement that identity, not even just with your products, but even with your consumer. Because if I put like 5 Tracks consumers, there will probably be similarities around them. So how have you created that? Because this is something a lot of people are still trying to navigate. Like, how do I create a unique brand identity? And not just in terms of, my logo, but in terms of like my products, in terms of my consumer. Was that created, or did you just flow into that?
Okay, so for brand identity, I'll answer it in the best way I think I can. I think usually the brand identity is a reflection of the creative designer's personality. So our brand archetype is for outlaws. So it's very outlaw, it's very edgy, it's very risky.
So you're an outlaw?
Very much, very much that. So all of the things that I find that make our brand stand out is that we curate it for the people that we know that want to wear it. So I keep saying, if everybody can wear your product, then it's nobody's product. So for me, if I would design a product, somebody must not like it, somebody must dislike it, and then that's not my customer. So, because before I used to try to conform, because when I started, so when we started out with making Ashoke pants in 2019, now they're very popular and I'm very happy about it. But in 2019, I remember a number of my customers and friends, some of them would say, these are gay pants. Do you understand? Like, why would a man wear like pants with so many colors? But I stuck to it. I'm like, okay, it's woven here. So one of the things that was important to us as a brand as well, because if we keep saying that we are pro-African, then we have to do something to make this economy better.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, if all the fabrics that are coming into the country are from China, and then African fashion is growing, but then the money is not really staying here. So then I started to say, okay, let's work with the things that we have here. So we started to make our designs with like the hand-woven showcase, and then we would tell the stories. We made them extremely cool. We gave them to celebrities, the Nigerians, politicians, everybody, so that people could get comfortable wearing it. So we just sort of stuck to making African fashion cooler, and that was sort of our differentiation. Like I would not paint, when we would paint on clothes, like I would paint it down for, I would paint something that usually wouldn't be as cool, but would just allow you to relate and connect back to your originality. So for us, it was just sticking to the script from day one. Yeah, that was how we're able to, because even when it wasn't, sometimes it wouldn't make money. So that's why the question you said, how do you manage the creativity and the business? Sometimes the long-term game. So like business is an infinite game. You can't get all the answers in your first year or maybe in your second year. So we stuck to the long-term game, saying someday this will make sense, because like you could pretty much see it and see that like it was good, but the customers were not accepting it yet because it was a bit maybe too colorful, maybe too busy. Because we designed mostly millennial men and some boomers, but we stuck to it up to the point where it now became acceptable. And now I don't think you can see 10 people without seeing one wearing maybe a colorful ashoke or something. I was telling my mom the other day, I said we have probably raised global production of ashoke by maybe 30-40%,
yes,
because everybody's using it now.
Yeah.
And then what makes me happy that is even if they're not all buying from my brand, for every ashoke that is worn, a weaver has made money.
Yes.
Locally.
That's
Yeah.
so good. That's so good. Thank you. I mean, just recapping some of the things that he has said, sticking to the long-term game, and that's also interesting because is there some sort of balance there? Because again, I want to sort of come from the perspective of emerging designers. So I am a designer and customers are not really buying my products yet. I know that, there is a long-term game. I see where it's going to, but like for you, now, I feel like you've shared from the creative perspective and the visionary perspective. From the business perspective, were there like any steps you took, because again, I think one of the challenges that a lot of designers, and I mean, when we think about the fashion industry is, I need to run this business. Like, I'm creative, but I need to go where people are going. Like you said, when you started doing ashoke pants, and I think I remember, it wasn't really a thing. Like, it wasn't what everybody was wearing. But now everybody's making ashoke pants because it's what is selling, right? How do you sort of manage that pressure between sticking to your creativity, sticking to your brand originality, and making profit, especially for a business that is not backed by investment or any fund? Because I think that that's something that people also want to know and learn. Like, were there other things you were doing on the side and maybe not putting out as much to sort of get your business through that time? Then the second thing is, how do you educate change the orientation of your consumer? So like you said, you knew that, okay, your target audience are maybe older men, but they don't like these colorful pants. How did you start to make that cool? Because I think that's also a bit of culture shaping.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me start with the first question. So the business part of it, the things that we design, like I said, it's not for everybody. So one of the major things is find your customer. Like, your product has a customer. So for us is, while we're sticking to the script and growing the market gradually, we still had, so also we had the simpler outfits. So for instance, when we started painting, we'll have like maybe a big Festac head painted at the top of an outfit, and then some other times we'll have like a small, simpler one here. So we're sort of adapting, while sticking to our script, we're sort of adapting to different people's individual styles. So we would make stuff that would be more comfortable for simpler people to wear. Yes, just to be able to satisfy the customers. But however, most of your customers, they don't have to be where you see. Like, the world is such a global village right now. So if you design something that Nigerians don't like, your next customer is one click away on Instagram, on TikTok. They are shopping your website. I sold close to Russia. Like you don't know where you're buying your clothes from. So also, you take advantage of social media. Like, I keep saying that's my real shop. Like, that's my first shop, my website, and my social media handles. So if you're designing something and that's really what your MO is, but it's not yet adding up to the business, I can say that you can have some other maybe simpler pieces or some simpler stuff that the audience here can consume, but while still sticking to your script, and then find your consumer. Because for me, I'm only saying the things that have worked for me, because when you stick to the script, when you find your customer, they are obsessed with it. They're addicted to it.
That's so good.
Yeah, like I have some customers that cannot travel without coming to sit in my office for me to curate all of their looks, because then they want to look African abroad. And there's a number of them, and then their communities, from them to their friends to the people that they meet on the road and everything. So I don't want to box it into saying, if you're not making the money, you follow the money, find where the money is. So you also mentioned something. We also took a bit of time to educate the audience. Nigerian men were kind of stressful when they were trying to dress them up. They were used to kaftans, top and pants. It was very simple, very casual. But I realized that, so the real problem wasn't them not knowing how to dress, it was them not having time. So they wouldn't, like men have a lot of things that they need to do. They don't have enough time to spend in the wardrobe. So while they were wearing kaftans, because it was easy. So I found out that we just needed to put the clothes together for them, style it for them. So also we took a lot of advantage of social media. So we would do, after designing a piece, we would now style it in numerous different ways, show them how to wear, so to teach them, show them how to wear colors, show them how to match stuff until they got comfortable. And also influencer marketing, people behave like people that they admire or they behave like the public. So when you put on outfits on somebody that they admire, it's easier for them to consume. So they start to say, oh, this person is wearing it, that person is wearing it, that person is wearing it, until everybody starts to wear it, and then they get comfortable. So we sort of educated them over time. Like I said, 2019 is 5+ years ago. It only really got very popular maybe some 6 to 8 months ago, like a lot of these things. So stick to the script, stay the long term, and then I think it will just sort of happen.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can we give Mark a round of applause? Thank you. That was really good. And I feel like you came into the industry from a very different background, and you've created your own sort of pathway and footprint as to how to make it work, and you're making it work. And now, in terms of protecting your creativity, how's that like? Because again, a lot of what you brought was new, whether it's the art on pieces, your design, and even now that your brand is doing a lot more like global expansion, how you managing and protecting your creativity, or, what does that look like? Because I think that's also another feedback that we often would get in terms of like IP, people copying designs. I'm sure you've had some experiences, but what has that been like for you?
Okay, so this particular one, I'm going to be very, very honest. The first time I saw a brand that painted on the dashiki, I called the boy. I said, I just resigned from the bank. I don't even know this fashion work. Like, this is my first design, and you're copying it already. I was so upset. And then it started to get more popular. People were copying it here and there. And then I spoke to my lawyer at the time about having a trademark, having patent, and all of those things. But it was a bit difficult because you can't do it per product. And then the minute they make the slightest twitch, it's now different. So it was very difficult. I remember one day I complained to my mom, and then my mom said imitation was the best form of flattery. So I think that I just sort of used that to maybe balance it out. Like, that was the good side to it, because the big brands that a lot of people aspire to be, like the Gucci's, the LVs, and the rest of them, like, they have almost more fakes than the original, more replicas and more copies. So I think if I'm being honest, I just sort of got comfortable with it. It just sort of validated my work. In fact, these days at tracks, if we do a design and it's not copied, I'm like, what happened? This will not catch. Do you understand? So like we allow them copy. Like, that's how we validate our work. We sort of have a superiority complex right now at tracks. And saying, I'm like, when I look around Lagos and I see everybody on an Ashoke and they stripe Ashoke this, I'm like, yeah, that's our work. So because we couldn't really, the legal space to fight, it was a really difficult battle at the time, and I think it still is.
Yes, it is actually.
So we just hyper create, test it, find our markets, and then until something can be done about it.
Okay, I get that. And I want to ask you the same question, but now in terms of global contemporaries. So, for example, we've had instances where, like, maybe Chinese factories are copying African print. As a brand that is global, how do you manage that? Because, you've said you're shipping to Russia, to the US, there are all of these like manufacturers and people who want to buy into what's happening in Africa. And again, I'm asking this question not just in relation to your brand, but just generally in relation to the creativity that's coming out of the continent. Because right now, the world is buying African, the world is curious about Africa, and African fashion is sort of becoming the new luxury, right, in different parts of the world. And it definitely also means that the global contemporaries or the global sharks are also looking, into what is happening in the continent. And sooner or later, I'm sure it's happening already, we'll be seeing certain poaches. So what do you think that the role of storytelling and identity plays in the mix of all of this? Does it change anything? Because again, a lot of what we say is Africa is a continent that is very rooted in storytelling, and that's probably one of the things that make the things that we produce luxury. So do you agree with that, or what are your thoughts around that?
So I think the angle that I would handle this from, again, wouldn't be the legal angle for me. It would be more from the storytelling angle. So for instance, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, because of like the pop-up that we were having, I had called one of our weavers, and I said I would need about 500 pieces of ashoke woven. And then he said, I think he said it would take a lot of time. And then I had to sit down, I was on the phone with him for like 20 minutes to educate him how this thing is popular now. The next thing is like the Chinese are coming. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So they're coming to copy these designs now. So if we did so much work to get these designs out there, and then the Chinese just come in and take it to a factory and mass produce 10,000 pieces of them, we've lost the storytelling, we've lost the cultural connection. So I think we just need to keep telling our stories. We need to start to empower. We need to get now to an industrial level. I think we've gone past the design level, and yes, it's pretty, yes, it's cool, but we need to start getting to an industrial level. And I thought about it that day. I'm like, okay, what can I do? So I'm like, okay, I'll probably have to maybe go there, because he was complaining that the weavers are reducing. I said, how can the weavers be reducing now when they should be quadrupling?
Yes.
So I'm saying we need to tell more of these stories. There needs to be more awareness about these things are our culture. They're what we hold on to. Let's not say that. I think my mom said to me at some point that culture is the last thing that Africa has holding. Like that's literally what we have left. So we need to hold on to it. We need to educate people, tell stories about it, make it cool, make it. I think I was joking with the weaver that day. I said you earn more than a lot of bankers right now. Do you understand? Like now it's a profitable occupation. So we need more light to be shown on these brands, on the weavers, the artisans, the people doing tie-dye, Akwete, just so that it gets to a point where they can be sustainable and self-sufficient. You want a young boy to have a dream of being a weaver and to be able to compete on the same standards as his contemporaries in other professions. Yeah, so I think for me, that's one of the things that we should do, is to ensure that the culture doesn't die, because if it's by experience, by the time the Chinese and these people come and when they try to, we would have lost. And what makes it relevant is the cultural connection. The fact that so like one of my weavers, his grandfather, his dad, him and his son, that's 4 generations of weavers. Do you understand? Maybe at the time it wasn't as cool, but now he's doing a lot better. So I thought about it. It was a shock for me at the time. I'm like, how can we ensure that these people continue to be able to do what they do and are compensated fairly for it?
Yeah. That's a good question that because that was sort of my next question, which is, the question is, how has your Nigerian heritage impacted your brand? And I feel like I know that already because we see it. Literally everything that your brand is about is it's a very heritage-based brand. But how do we also make this cool for the ecosystem? Because what you're saying is also what a couple of other designers have said, like we're losing the craftsmanship, the artisans are reducing, which is interesting because globally, the world is learning about our craftsmanship and they're interested and curious about what's coming out of Africa. But locally, the creative or the craftsmen are losing the craft or losing interest. So it feels like there's a dichotomy somewhere, there's a gap somewhere. What do you think we can do to bridge the gap, especially as creators? Because I know on the grand scheme, when we think about industrialization, we think about the government and all of these people coming in, but that's probably going to take forever. As a designer, as a creative, how do you think we can make the Nigerian heritage cool? I remember when we were younger, if you finish like secondary school and you had like a break, you were probably going to learn a skill or learn a trade, but obviously that's changed a lot now. So how do we create that balance? Because if we lose our craftsmen, we're losing our business, we're losing the money that should be coming. You don't have to have all the answers, but yes.
So what I'm saying is I think the last time I was asked this question, I said, I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago at a podcast, I said, we cannot, so it's not something we can do on our own, to be honest, because like, we've done a lot as designers. Like Nigerian designers are doing fireworks. Do you understand? And we can only do so much in terms of, like, we have put African design on the map. Like I see it everywhere. I saw it at Lhaude Ghana, like Boydo, he was at the LVMH prize. So like we have done that bit to make sure that there's you can see that there's an industry here. We are 10xing it every year. Do you understand? In terms of revenue, in terms of this. But at this point, we need a bit of government support. Like, how much can one brand do? And then also the industry is not as, for lack of a better word, coordinated. Yeah, so we need to be able to do a lot more than what the designers are currently doing. So we need a lot of government support. For instance, if I wanted to get 1,000 pieces of Ashoki, for instance, or 10,000, there's only so much I can do. But if there was, say, some form of training institutes where people are beginning to, so the front end is being done by the designers. Now I'm saying it will be too much of pressure for the designers to also fix the back end, having to maybe train these people, build facilities, ensure that, because the transactions are there, the revenue is there, it's just that it needs to be a lot more coordinated. So as designers, I think that we're doing a great job in terms of putting it out there. Like I see almost every brand doing things now that. So before it was a lot of streetwear, but now everybody is sort of coming into African streetwear, Adire, Ankara, tie-dye, and all of that. So the front end, I think, is being handled properly. I just think that the back end needs more support, a lot more support, some grants, some education. Yeah, most of that.
Do you think the media also has a role here?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, social media. So I follow a lot of Nigerian brands. I think my closet is 90% Nigerian brands. So because of the space that we are in, there's so much that you see. So I think while I was sitting there, I was looking at one of the outfits that Beyonce wore for her. I think it was by some Tongogo brand or something. So I'm like, so with the media, we're doing a lot with social media and the likes, but obviously there's so much more that we can do. But I think that the media has helped. So like everybody is one click away. Like the world is such a global village. You can have, I think when we started Tracks, it was like 100% Nigerian consumers. Now we have sort of gotten to like a 60-40, where it's 40. And I think, it's tilting more that way. I think also because we sell more culture-conscious clothes. So the media has been one of our biggest tools. We have a photo shoot almost every day. We're active on almost every platform. And then you just find that people that you can connect to people from all over the world. Sometimes we have to use translators. I think our Shopify website is translated to 100 and something languages.
Amazing.
Yeah, because like people want to shop from all over the world. I think now people are buying, they're buying it as fashion. They're no longer buying it as quote unquote just African fashion. They're buying it as just cool fashion.
Yeah.
It's just called prints now. It's just called prints, maybe African, but like they're consuming it as fashion in itself now. And I think that media has done such a great job.
Amazing. That's so good. And as a brand that is sort of doing a lot of global business, do you ever feel boxed or pressured around just fitting into what like global fashion stereotypes should be? So for example, if you think about like going to Paris, London, Japan, do you ever feel like we need to maybe tone down on certain of our like brand aesthetics? Do we need to maybe work with more plain fabrics? I mean, do you ever feel boxed? Do you ever feel they need to fit into that global stereotype? Or do you think that being who you are as a brand is a much more stronger advantage?
Yeah, so for me, like for us at Tracks, our aesthetic is African. We can't come out of it. So, for instance, if one of my designers had designed the piece and brought to me for review, I would ask, where is the Tracks in it? And what that question basically says is, where is the African in it? Like, how does this sell my culture? Like, what? Like, it can be the fabric, it can be the motif, it can be anything. But for us, we cannot come out of it. So we have stayed so strongly in it now that I can literally design a wedding dress that's African. So and then because right now we've gotten a lot of validation from the international market. It's not the period. It's the coolest time in the history of the world to be African. There's jollof rice, there's Afro beats, there's Nigerians on social media. So I think that staying true to your aesthetic, staying true to your brand's vision, I think that's what you should do. However, for instance, if I was going to design for maybe someone that lives in a different climate, then we can infuse other stuff. So we have Tracks Ashoke puffer jackets. Do you understand? So you can maybe have variations to fit people's demography. However, like I said, our brand voice must be heard. So when you see it, like you said, we don't write tracks on things. When you see it, you just sort of know. So I think that we stick to it. We can adapt where necessary, but it's always going to be an original African brand.
Amazing. So stick to your brand story, heritage, but you can sort of tweak designs every now and then. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark. So I think one final question I have is, you've built a brand that is disruptive. You've built a brand that is very bold. You've built a brand that is successful, not just locally, but globally. What does one need to build a brand like that? And I don't mean from the brand perspective, I mean from the you perspective. Like, what does it take to build a brand that is disruptive, successful, locally made, but globally, acclaimed?
God. So I don't know how else
I'm
to
not
answer
sure
the
people
question.
heard what you said.
I said God. Yeah, I don't know how to answer the question properly because, to be honest, I keep saying, I make this joke in my office that I'm an accidental designer. Like, I never really knew what I was doing. So sometimes when I come on these talks, I'm like, what does people want me to say? I don't really know what I'm doing, Yeah, to be quite honest. But I think that I had a big God factor in my life. So a lot of things that I do just sort of work for me. Like, I didn't know that I was going to create an African brand. I just knew that I wanted to make clothes because I didn't want to sit in the house. However, some of the things that I can say that have worked for me have been, my brand is a reflection of who I am. I have liked to dress up since I was a kid. I really like Africa. I feel that there's so much more that we can do here. I also don't like boring. I like stuff to be interesting. I like colors. I like expression. So it doesn't make it difficult for me. And build a brand first. I think I can say that. So from day zero when we started, we would take our photo shoot serious. So we'll get a proper model. Like, I can't put something on the table and use my phone to take the picture. Do you understand? Like, every day an intentional push for the brand. Like, when you see it, it must look like what you're trying to communicate. And that depends on the kind of brand that you're building. So if you're building a fast fashion or a consumer brand where the customer is everywhere, you don't have to do that. So know what brand you're building and then act accordingly. So for us, we took our branding very seriously and our creativity. We would go and shoot inside of the bush just to try to tell a story. We would literally write it, like the design, all of it. Like, we did everything so intentionally in building the brand. Building a brand is painful because some days, like, you can't see the effect of the things that you are doing on day one. However, if you stay long enough, you will get lucky.
Yes.
Yeah, if you stayed long enough, you get to the point where, like, the brand is building itself. Like, some people walk into my office. Like, if you walk into my office, they always tell you I'm creative designer. Nobody says I'm the owner. Yeah, because some people are in such awe, like, oh, yeah, you designed this. How do you think about these things? Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, we've just done it long enough. So I think it's a long-term game. Just stay long enough and keep doing what you're doing. Also, there's a lot of advantages these days. I think I mentioned earlier, it's the coolest time in the history of the world to be African. So we're no longer at a disadvantage. We're more at an advantage. We have so many stories to sell. We have so many designs to make. If we just sat with it and stuck with it, I always like to say as well, if you are a creative, find your superpower and stick to it. Work with a team. I used to like to say that creatives don't make great business people because we're very emotional in our design, yeah? And that's me, so it's fine. But work with a team, trust people to do what they do, and then I think just sit long enough and then you watch your work.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can we give Mark a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. And just to do a recap of, what we've spoken about in this session and what I've learned from this session is really the power of authenticity. A lot of what I hear you say is really like originality and being sort of bold and confident in your originality as a designer, as a brand, and even as a people. I think that we're now in a time and in a day where it's cool to be Nigerian, it's cool to be African. And I think it starts, first of all, with the mindset that you have. How do you approach your creativity? How do you approach the work that you're doing? If you see yourself and see like the work that you're doing as important, as luxury, as shaping culture, I think that it fills you with the boldness to, stay with your thing and do it well. Other thing that Mark highlighted was also branding, which is also something I think that sometimes we miss. Today we're here, tomorrow we're there. Sometimes we don't pay as much attention as we need to details, but really, and really, the world is watching, right? One of the reasons why, like I say, if I see a Trax outfit anywhere, is also because they've been very consistent with their branding. I mean, you always see the colors, you always see the painting, you always see all of these different elements that, make up the brand. So thank you so much, Mark. Do you have anything you want to say? Also, we'll start taking questions. So if anyone has questions, you can just raise up your hand. Okay, I see one hand. Any other? I want to see how many questions we have in total. I see 2. Any other questions? Okay. So, Max, you just want to say something before we take questions, or we take questions first?
Let's take questions first.
Okay. So we'll take questions. We'll start with the guy on that. Okay, 3 questions now.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My question is basically about you creating a unique brand for yourself. And during the process, there's always talk down when the money start coming in little by little. Did you have a back savings to like fund the whole business before you emerge on that journey? And how much did you like invest on yourself?
Okay, so when I was starting the business, I was very stubborn. So because I was scared, I took bigger risks. I think we rented a store first before we knew what product we were going to sell. We knew it was fashion. So I took all of the money that I had saved from banking, all of the money I was making at the period, money from family and friends. So because really, I knew what I was going to say. I had worked 6 years in the bank. I couldn't start going around saying, I make kaftan with my mouth. Everybody knew me as a banker. So I got a store first, did proper interior. That's because of the kind of brand I wanted to build. So I spent all my money on it. But because I had done that, that gave me skin in the game. I knew that it was too late to fail now. Yeah, so I think I took a very big risk. And sometimes when you do that, sometimes when you don't have a plan B, sometimes plan Bs can give you a bit of comfort. I didn't have a plan B. There was no space for us not to make it. I will write, my name is Mark Odiete and I simply cannot fail at the beginning of a journal. Do you understand? So I think to answer the question, people, like I mentioned earlier, talk downs, it's not for everybody. Like, so if someone is talking down on my work, I just know that you're not the customer, it's okay. You're not the target of the audience. And then you just keep working, like tunnel vision, lock in, and then just keep going. I hope I've answered the question. How much did I invest? Okay.
If this money is not enough, did you have a backup plan?
I didn't have. I was spending it as it was coming. So I paid the rent today. Tomorrow I gave the interior designer an advance. The next day I was taking money from everywhere and everybody. But the minute that the brand had started, so because I knew how I wanted to position, the minute you walked into the store, you know that you give me money. You know that I'm angry. Do you understand? So yeah, at the minute that the brand has started, it quickly started to pay back because of the investment that we had put in. We had great products, but you have to make noise sometimes. Tell everybody.
So that means you have to put all your energy and before you even think of profits. Before you think of profits.
No, profit is not one of the first 5 things you think about. At the beginning of a business, you are trying to get proof of concept. I think I only got proof of concept last year. It was just last year I told myself that, this brand is here to stay. After having invested, I opened one store, opened another store. Do you understand? And if you're going to fail quickly. So for me, I'm like, if this money go lost, make it lost now. Do you understand? So I think we had no option of a plan B. And then like I said also, the brand quickly started. So it didn't make profit for us, but at least it had some revenue. After a while, we didn't have to spend all the money out of pocket. By the time Shay will come and buy 3 natives, and yeah, this and this and that, there was a business model already there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I know there's somebody beside him. Yes. Then we'll come to
Okay,
her.
thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Festus Moses, and I run a footwear leather fashion brand called Most Mason. I'm concerned about the invasion of China. I'm concerned about the invasion of China into our own traditional heritage. So I also believe in the aspect of intellectual property. But then I understand that we as individuals, we are limited to what we can do. Is there a way that we can communicate with the government to step in order to help us in protecting our cultural artifacts? Because, for instance, now, the popular caps that are used in the northern Nigeria is predominantly produced in Borno State. Mm-hmm. And there was a research that Chinese went in there to try to see how they can study how it is done so that they can mass produce it. But it became very difficult for them. So hearing that they're already doing this, our weaving, simply means that in the next 10 to 5 years, these things may be out of us, and that's our own heritage. How do we protect it? Can we find a way of making government to see how they can protect it intellectually? Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer that question. So the government had created a ministry. So there's a Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. And I can tell you that the ministry has been doing quite a bit of work in terms of just working with the talents that we have in the ecosystem and the things coming up. I mean, recently, I know that they had recently launched like a website, which is, I can't remember what the website is, something about Nigerian culture and creativity, where it's sort of like a directory, right, where people can come and learn about our creativity, our culture. So I think that the government is listening and, they are doing a bit of work. I think at the very most we can be hopeful. I feel like there are a lot of interventions. Even yesterday, when we had the session, I know that the representative from the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund was here, and they also spoke about some of the initiatives that the government was putting together. So I think that the government is doing a bit of work around it, because I don't think that Mark would have the answer to that question. But the government is doing a bit of work around preservation, around storytelling, and around just, getting together a lot of the creativity and work coming out of here. You can also come and see me, and I can show you the name of the ministry so that you can, send emails or, yeah.
Okay, so I think something that we can also do ourselves would be have a bit of integrity. I only buy stuff that I know was hand woven. I know everybody that weaves my ashoke. I know where it is woven. Do you understand? So if we sort of start to patronize the people that we can confirm are still culturally producing these things, I think that might be a small step, in the way.
Yeah. That's a good one. Thank you. Okay, there was one more. Okay, there's one more question here.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Okay, my question is very much related to his question, because I also work with ashoke, although not as a fashion designer. I use ashoke to make accessories and all of that. So, and I noticed that there's the dying of the artisans. We can't find them. So I remember when I first started, I used to use just any ashoke I see. I didn't know it was, counterfeited from China. When I knew better, I stuck with. Now my decision is, if it's not handmade, and it's very difficult to find the weavers. Now, in this conversation of counterfeiting, I noticed that a lot of us, I'm sorry to say this, but I like to be honest, we are waiting for the government to help us. What I would say is, let's not wait for them to help us combat counterfeiting. Because the truth is, we need to fight this battle ourselves. And for me as an individual, first of all, I have made a decision that I would use the one that is locally produced by our artisans. I have some pieces that we had when I was growing up. We used to go to the weavers and they would weave for us. I still have those pieces. And I have the ones from various ashwebis that are from Eco markets, counterfeited. I stopped using those ones. So what I would say is we need to get serious with this battle. For example, if we catch the government's attention, they will take us seriously and they'll say, oh, these people are doing something. So now, I wrote something here so that I don't forget what I want to say. The Chinese have a goal, and their goal is they want to be the industrial of the world, right? So that's why they must produce our own crafts. We have so many hand-woven fabric on the look. We have, if you go to Benue State, they have their own. If you go, the Fulanis have their own. The Akwete in Abia State, they have their own. It's not just Ashoke, it's a lot. All over West Africa, we have our own craft. So the Chinese have a goal, like I was saying earlier, and their goal is to make sure that they become the manufacturing center of the world. Why can't we find a goal for ourselves? And if we have a goal, for instance, for these weavers and the arts they do, then we can start, it will start making sense. They will have a reason to stay, their number will increase, and people will change their mind. So for someone like me that has had a mindset, a shift, I deliberately, when I want to use Ashoke, I make sure that it is that one, the authentic one. And, you know, so if we can kind of set that goal for ourselves in the industry. I'm sorry, this is not a question, please. I know we are supposed to ask questions. Yes, it will drive us and it will motivate the people who care. Not everybody will care. Some people will still go and buy that one, it's fine. But the people who care will increase the number of people like me, like you, sir, who care. And then, yes, so that's one goal. Yesterday there was Ashoke Fest.
Yeah,
I don't know if I found out today, surprisingly, there was Ashoke Fest yesterday. It's a 2-day event, 27th and 28th. I wish I went, but it's fine. I'll attend the next one. Yesterday was the maiden edition. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause. Okay, your question.
So you currently have staff, yes? You have people that work with you.
Do you?
For now, I'm asking for LLF.
Okay. I think they just watch you. Your staff slowly become you. They just watch what you do. In my office now, there's some things that cannot be designed. Like it won't happen. It won't happen overnight. It will happen over time. So some of my recent really interesting designs were designed by one of my staff. She just sort of knows, like if she sees something, you say, but it's nothing. So when you stick to your DNA, it flows and everybody gets aligned with it. So over time, as you continue to do what you do and stick to it, because if you keep moving left and right and you keep changing it, then they don't know what they're holding on to. First of all, you have to share the vision with them. What are we creating? What is it? What are we doing? And then you start, first of all, to do. That's why I say particularly, I wear 90% African designers, and out of the 90%, 70% is tracks. So they know that we don't joke with these things. You can't design something that is out of line from what we create. And over time now, they have gotten it. They understand that if you are going to be in this space, this is what's obtainable here. This is the culture here. And they will sort of align with it. They understand. You wouldn't open their brain and put it inside. They will see it, and the brain will tell them how to do it.
Okay, amazing. You have a follow-up question? Okay, a quick one.
So, do you keep creating the designs, or with time when they are free to create designs and show you and you vet these designs?
Yeah, so I mentioned, so you have to allow, especially creatives, to express. So originally I would, but now I think, now I have a team of people that we design together. Sometimes I even have external designers. Do you understand? So as long as for us it's a DNA, there's a direction. We don't know the design, but we know the direction. We know the vision. It has to be cool and it has to be African. So I don't design. I still design because I like to, but right now my team can come up with the whole collection and I will be fine with it. So yeah, over time they would learn, and then your creativity just starts to trickle down to them.
Thank you. Can we give Mark a round of applause? Thank you so much, Mark, for this conversation. I'm sure we've all found it insightful. In final words, if you were to say one thing to, emerging creatives or designers in the room, whether it's leather work, fashion, bags, whatever it is, what would you say?
Fashion commerce is just such a big industry. There's so much to do here. I kept saying, so I tell my friends, I said my competition is not the next brand. My competition is P&G. Do you understand? My competition is Zara. My competition is Dangote. It means there's such a big industry. As we continue to do it, it's better than it was last year, and last year was better than it was the year before. So I think that it's an honorable profession, whether you're doing making clothes, you're doing leather work, yeah, whatever it is that you're doing in fashion, accessories, and all of that. Stick to it. You can make the best out of literally anything. I think in the years I was working in the bank, my sister was making handbags, yeah? And then she made bags from, I think, if I remember correctly, maybe 2014, this is 2025. That's when, or in Lagos rather. And I can tell you now categorically that like when I see the kind of work she does, I'm like, was it the same job? Was it the same Ankara bags you were making that time? Now, I think I just saw a post she made where she said she just concluded 6,000 bags. So like everything is a noble profession in fashion. Just stick to it, do it properly, do it like your life depended on it. There's no, I'm not saying don't have other sources of income, you definitely should, but your fashion, don't put a plan B to it. Do like it was the only job that you had. And over time, like I said, your business knows how much you care about it. The business would know. It will return the energy that you give to it. So yeah, stick to it, put your energy on it, and it will definitely become something.
Amazing. Can we give Mark a round of applause? Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this chat.